Hello everyone, Kent.Bressler here. I want to welcome you to Kent's Kidney Stories. During our time together over these podcasts, I'd like to discuss kidney disease. I'd like to tell you about my journey as a transplant patient, but also talk about dialysis, kidney donation, and just about anything else that might be of interest. Kent's Kidney Stories, a podcast endorsed and sponsored by kidneysolutions.org.
Hello, everybody. This is Kent.Bressler, and we're going to do some podcasting. Got a great guest today, and I do hope you enjoy it. And if you do, make sure you subscribe and send it out to the world so they hear it. This information that we give you on Kent's Kidney Stories is something that it draws near and dear to my heart, but it all revolves around the people that are coming behind me, the ones that are waiting out there, and for instance, the ones that are on the transplant lists and the ones that are looking for living donors. Regardless, we always start with prayer, and I'm ready for that if you are. Heavenly Father, send your holy angels to watch over us today. You blessed us with another day, and under your fatherly care, we look forward to more opportunities to serve you. Keep us safe and help us take a stand for you. Blessings, please, on the families who lost loved ones on 9/11, some 22 years ago, and for those who are seeking a living donor or on dialysis. All of this comes as we thank you for your many blessings. So in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So Saturday we had a great walk in San Antonio for the PKD Foundation down there. And these folks raised over $135,000. Yes, that's 135,000 to go towards funding a cure for polycystic kidney disease, which is PKD. So congratulations, really congratulations to my good friend Patty Ruffin and her husband Mark. And thank you to all the sponsors and all the volunteers and all the walkers and everyone who participated. It's a great event. It comes off every year, same time in San Antonio. And maybe you could get active in it next year. Give me a call. I'll tell you exactly how to do that. Okay, and then this is very important. I wanted to let you know out there that I need to give a huge shout out to James Avery Craftsman here in Kerrville, Texas. And James Avery I knew very well and is a good friend. And since passed, he's a World War II veteran and aviator. And I also like to thank Paula Johnson for helping me in Kidney Solutions in garnering a $20,000 grant from James Avery. All the meetings and all the preparations with Paula paid off. And I want to tell you that $20,000 is going to be spent wisely, judiciously and wisely, and it's going to help patients and patients only. And we're also going to develop a kidney health program for all the employees at James Avery. That's been approved, and we will begin in the near future of doing that. So check them out. It's jamesavery.com. I think you'll be surprised at the craftsmanship of over 40 years of a man who knew exactly what he could do with silver. Okay, enough said. Let's get down to podcasting business. It's my pleasure to have one of the great kidney warriors that I've ever met. Ryan Pendergraft is a local radio celebrity here in the little old Kerrville, Texas. But most of all, he's a kidney transplant recipient and a great and active supporter of Kidney Solutions. So, good morning, my dear friend, Ryan. How are you?
Hey, Ken. It is great to see you, man. Thank you for the introduction. I always refer to my celebrity nature as I have threes or fours of fans.
I had to throw that in there because I knew it would charge you up. Celebrity, what is a celebrity, right? Celebrity is a human being.
Kim and I laugh because she'll always want to go, do you know who I am?
I'm missing her already. How is she? How is she doing?
She's great. She took a trip with her sister and a friend, and they're headed to Colorado. So they're having a good time.
Well, that's great. Well, it's been a long time since I've talked to what I consider a fresh patient. Talked to a lot of them, but then somebody who's relative of what I call under the 5-year curve. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you about the 5-year curve being, I think if a person reaches that 5-year level, they pretty well got a handle on what's going on and they're going to do pretty good. Okay.
Hmm.
So how long have you been transplanted?
I had my transplant June 29th of 2022.
Okay. So
So I had my 1 year celebration. I
yeah,
don't think
we
we
said,
were able to, yeah, but we
yeah,
did a whole week at the radio station.
yeah.
Jam Broadcasting here locally, they just said, "Hey, knock yourself out. You go crazy." And we did, and it was a great celebration. A little bit about me, mainly about my donor, Brad Freeland, a friend of mine, and but also just to let people know, being a donor is life changing for everyone in a good way. So that was fun, but it's been just over a year.
You know what? A year is a marking point. I mean, it's like, it's the stepping stones or the cobblestones that you run on for a whole year. If you survive that first year, that's the mark. 90% of the patients who do get a kidney transplant do well for the first year. That's why they mark it. My point here is that longevity is a lifelong project. I mean, it's not something that you just think, well, every day, but you've got to think about it all the time. And there's another thing that's real important about it is the fact that even though you've had a kidney transplant, you're always going to have other issues that crop up. And you've had some, haven't you? Right?
Yeah, it's so I had my transplant in June. In August, I got a phone call that my creatinine went through the roof, and I ended up spending about a month back in the hospital. I was going through rejection. Got that handled, and look, they tell you this at the time. They said, hey, for most people, the overwhelming majority, it's not a matter if, it's when. And they said, don't panic. We fixed 99 out of 100. And they said, there's that one that we don't know why, but they did. They multiple biopsies and made some medication adjustments. I got hit with prednisone. I was hoping to stay off of that, but hey, I'm not doing dialysis. I'm not complaining.
That's
And
right.
and then I am very, I don't know how unique I am, but they tell me the doctors at Methodist tell me I am. I do not what's the word, metabolize Prograf like
It
other
doesn't
people.
absorb very well in your system.
Yeah, and my Prograf levels, even on a small dose, were through the roof. I mean, they were 10, 11, 12. And they were like, why is this happening? I was like, I don't know. And they said, are you doing something? I was like, no. And we went through the whole thing. And, I found this out because I picked up a couple of infections. And, they told me when I was in the hospital, they said, yeah, you have an E. coli infection. And I kind of looked around and I was like, I looked at the doctor and I said, am I the dirty, stinky kid in school that needs to shower or something? And they said, no. They said, when your levels go that high, your immune system is so suppressed, things that shouldn't be a problem become a problem. And I was like, and thankfully they laughed at me. I mean, they know I'm kind of a character, as you can tell. But the last time I was in the hospital was May. So I think between transplant and May of this year, I've been in the hospital about 4 times.
Yeah. And that's quite common, but not,
So,
E. coli works its way around your body all the time. It's always there. It's when you get suppressed that it kind of gets out of hand.
But there's been obviously some adjustments. Excuse me, I got a little itch there. But when I made that comment about being the dirty kid, the nurses were trying not to laugh in front of me, but they did, and I was like, what the heck, man? I wash my hands, a good hygiene. I know all the things and do them because this isn't my
you
first
want to stay away from it. Yeah.
And they said no. They explained it, and my wife looked at me like I was an idiot, which I get that look a lot.
Me too.
So,
yeah.
But it's funny. You're told this is not a cure. This is treatment. And I took that very much to heart with a lot of things. And it's one of those things where I was just discussing this with my mom, and I've never really said this to anyone because I don't want it to come across as ungrateful or dissatisfied, because I am not. I am thrilled. But there's this perception that you're going to be like you were before this all happened. And you are, and it's not really for the medical community, it's from people that have never gone through this. And you're not.
Nope.
You're great. It's wonderful, but you are not the same. And and I tell my wife this. I said, sometimes I said I feel like things like cognitively, I don't feel like I'm the same as I was before. Physically, I notice I take a lot longer to recover from exertion than I did before. I've got some issues that are left over from dialysis. I have pretty rough neuropathy in my feet, and I
Yes.
have tried everything. And
Yeah.
the drugs that they give me, the side effects, they don't outweigh the benefit to me. And
Okay.
so and it's one of those things where some of these things, and you kind of suspect this, but once you go through it, it's like, okay, this is new normal. It's a heck of a lot better than it was before. But I just want people that are having a transplant to be prepared for that if they've not gone through this.
Ryan, that's a great point, because it isn't normal. It's a new normal. It is
No.
the you normal, I call it. That's just the way it is. And I'll tell you what, it changes as you get older, as you age with the kidney, and as you get farther and farther out, it really changes a lot.
Yeah.
All right. And
Well,
it's not the same. It's not the
you know,
same as when you were 16 or 18 or
oh
25 or
no.
30. No
Well,
way.
middle age and older is a lot of fun, just being healthy.
Yeah, right.
But
You kind of
and
bet.
there's another side of this. Everyone's story is important, but everyone's story is unique. I don't think there are any two that are the same.
No, there
And
aren't.
one of the things that I've struggled with, and again, I haven't even shared this with Kim. For 4 years, it was, I was constantly. I learned to deal with the fact that death could be around the corner.
Mhm.
I had no kidneys. I had cancer. I was on dialysis. I'd had some things happen. We'll probably talk about that in a little bit. But you go from this, death is right around the corner, because I mean, heart attack, stroke, who knows what could happen.
Sure.
The winter storm in Corpus. I mean, we had no water. There was no dialysis. I went 4 or 5 days with no treatment on
Yeah.
hemo and gained like 40 pounds in that amount of time, and didn't know where I was. And I even told Kim, I said, this is going to kill people like me. We got to go. And then thankfully, Davita was able to get treatment. But you live with that. And I hate to say, in some strange way, you get comfortable with it. And then when that hammer, that Damocles hammer, isn't hanging over your head, it's like, okay, I feel relief, but I'm not sure how to handle this yet. And, I still have just these leftover thoughts. I have these weird things. And, yeah, transplant still has a lot of risk involved, but it's like
Oh,
that, just that constant threat is gone. And when you've lived under that, you're like, okay, what do I do now? It just takes a little bit of time to process that and get used to that. So, I mean, that's one of the things that you definitely don't get that shared with you when you're counseling with the hospitals and the other people about transplant.
very, very few people know about that, because the people within the transplant world have never experienced it. They live it. They're there all the time.
Yeah.
But if you haven't gone through this, if you haven't had kidney failure, if you haven't had anything to do with the kidney, you know very well how difficult it is. I don't care what kind of kidney disease you have. It is
Yeah.
difficult, period. That's it. And the major adjustments that you go through, they're almost commonly called day by day. You don't know what's coming. You don't anticipate anything. You just go on living, because that's why you had the transplant.
Well,
I
and
tell you what, very scary.
you learn to react to things very quickly. I mean,
Exactly.
and like I mentioned, the winter storm in Texas. I mean, when that was coming, I actually told Kim, I said, we need to leave now before the storm got there. And she was like, why? And I said, this kind of weather extremes will kill people like me.
Oh, well, sure.
And
Exactly.
hurricanes, extreme weather, extreme heat. It's stuff I never cared about before. I was like,
Right.
I'll write it out. Now I
Yeah.
got to think about. You had to think about that.
You bet you do.
So, we'll get into it a little bit. That's one of the reasons I chose Kerrville.
The thing that's most important to remember is you never let anything go. When you were beforehand, you could let everything kind of ride. It's okay. You can't do
Yeah.
that after you've been transplanted. Once you've been transplanted, when you're symptomatic or changed, you better deal with it and figure out what it is, because it can explode very quickly.
Yeah, I have worn my transplant coordinators out, at Methodist, and they told me, before I left, Dr. K. I'm sure if you've been in transplant, Dr. K in this area,
Very well.
and he called me his little Spetzel. It's always cracked me up because I'm not little,
No, you're
and
not.
but he said, if anything weird happens, he goes, I don't care what it is, call us.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've called them over itchy skin. I've called them over my foot swole up just unexpectedly. And they've just said, hey, do this. It's not a big deal. And then I've called them and they go, you need to come in right now. I mean,
Yeah.
they've actually told me that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're right. You can't let things go.
No, you can't. And a lot of people do. Even transplant patients think, well, it's going to be better tomorrow. Nothing's better tomorrow if it gets worse, right?
Yeah.
You're going to end up having a nightmare on Elm Street if you don't deal with it immediately. And we talk about that in our support group all the time. You know what?
Well,
Just do it. Don't wait. You can't wait.
yeah, it's when I had the infection I mentioned, the first one I went to the hospital and they just treated me with like generic or general antibiotics, and
Mhm.
they didn't get it all and it came back.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually driving, doing Meals on Wheels for the Diedrich Center the second time it happened, and I felt my back get tight, and I mean I knew
There you go.
I dropped off the last two meals. I called my wife and I said, please call uh, Kim at Methodist and tell her we're coming. There was no should I come. It was I'm going to be there,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why. And they had everything ready. So it's before. I mean, I will tell you, before all this happened, I would have ignored it. I'd have just wrote it out.
Sure. Wake up next morning and be, on
Yeah.
deathbed.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I knew to go do that. And some people might think, oh, whatever. But you know what? I looked at it this way. A very close friend of mine went through a lot to get me to this point, and I'm not going to risk this. I don't want to. I will say I owe him, but there's an obligation to him as well as to myself and people that care about me.
That's
so,
not your kidney.
No, it's
That's
on
not,
loan.
That's not your kidney. And the
He
one
tells
I
me all
have
the
is,
time he tells me all the time if I get out of line, he wants it back.
there you go. And my brother, when I speak about the kidney, it's my brother's kidney. It's not my kidney.
Yeah.
Or I don't name it. It's not named. It's my brother's kidney.
Yeah.
And that refreshes my memory every time I say it. The most important part of this whole process after transplant is taking care of that kidney. And there's a whole lot that goes into it, and you better know about as much as you can. So that's true. Tell me, you mentioned cancer, and I was going to ask you what really was the precipitator of your kidney disease.
Well, I was headed to a transplant anyway. I mean, so when I was 2, I was a very sick kid all the time, and the doctor, they press on the kid's abdomen when they do checkups and all that, and they felt a knot, and so they brought me to the hospital, and they did exploratory surgery. They thought it was a tumor, and it turns out I had a UPJ, and my right kidney was necrotic, so they just took it out.
Yeah.
And they said, no boxing, no wrestling, no football, go live a normal life.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And I did everything except boxing, football, and wrestling. And when I was 33, Kim and I were doing a life insurance workup and did the physical. And when we came back from a trip, they go, you need to see a doctor. Your creatinine levels and the protein in your urine is like through the roof. And I found out that I had secondary FSGS.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like freaked out about this. I didn't realize what secondary meant. I thought this was genetic and I was just doomed. And though the doctors explained, said, hey, you can manage this. In fact, my nephrologist in New Orleans at the time said, hey, son, he goes, you're probably going to die of something. He goes, but it's not going to be this. He goes, we have, I was at early stage 3,
Yes.
CKD. And I was like, cool. And I managed it. I did what I needed to do and rocked along. And man, I bet I rocked along for, it was about 10, 11 years. So Harvey hit in 2017. And I went back for a checkup, and you have to understand the relationship my doctor and I had. We were pretty tight. And he looked at my labs and he goes, what the hell did you do? And I was like, excuse me? He goes, man, your GFR went from like 50 to like 25 in like 6 months.
Yeah.
And he goes, we haven't done a scan in a while. We need to take a look at this. And so they did a scan, and he called me and he goes, look, I can't tell you this is cancer. He goes, but I am 98% sure that this is not going to be something I handle and that you have cancer. So we went through, I met with a urologist and they did the whole thing. And I remember when they said, hey, this is what you're dealing with. I was in Corpus Christi, and I said, not doing this here. I said, I want a referral right to MD Anderson right now. And so that was how I found out I had cancer, renal cancer in my kidney. I had a big tumor growing right through the middle of my one kidney.
And
So,
that's amazing. Did that, other than pain and discomfort in your back, did it tell you anything? Because FSGS is silent. I have it too.
yeah,
It's silent.
I didn't. I had a lot of symptoms. The cancer I never knew I had cancer. I had no pain. I had no anything. I had serious fatigue. In fact, there was a running joke for the longest time when I would say, I'm tired. And my brother and my family would tease me, why are you always tired? And I was like, I didn't know why. I didn't know what it caused that.
Yeah.
I knew something was going on. I was an avid weightlifter. I was just really dedicated. And when I would, particularly leg day, which was very intense, I would get out of the gym and I'd tell Kim, I said, do I really stink? I smell ammonia. And it's like in my face. And I had, I Googled it, which, don't Google symptoms. You'll go from having a cold to needing a casket in 30 seconds. I mean, that's how that works. But it explained what the ammonia smell was. I'm like, oh man, this is bad. So I started toning down my workouts and drink, all the things, drink more water, all that stuff. But as I was getting closer, when my kidney function plummeted, I started having cognitive issues. And it wasn't like, I was unable to speak, but like, I just noticed that things weren't clicking as fast. I described it as like Kim or someone would ask me a question or engage me in conversation, and I knew what I wanted to say and how to say it, but it's like I couldn't get the words from my head out my mouth. Mm-hmm. And that was when I got kind of mean, because I was very frustrated.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what was happening. I thought I was losing my mind for a while until someone said, hey, this is what happens when your body's full of toxins. So those are the symptoms I had.
Did you go through, before you found out about the cancer, did you go through kind of like a FSGS? I call it the prednisone steroid bombardment, is when they put you on high doses. You didn't go through that.
No, I didn't do that. I did that during rejection, and man, I don't ever want to do that again.
Now that's the treatment, and it's still the treatment after all these years. I've had it for over 50 years, and that is the standard of care, is to give people high doses steroids. And I've been on steroids my whole life, nearly, it seems like.
Yeah, I still take 5 milligrams of prednisone a day.
Too.
When I went through rejection, man, it took them a while to figure out what was causing it. They weren't, I think I had 3 biopsies within about a 3-week period. Mm-hmm. Which that's not exactly fun, but they finally said, hey, and they told me, they go, you're going to be really uncomfortable. I mean, they just flat told me that. And I thought I was prepared for it. And I have a motto that Kim and I developed going through all this. It's called, it'll be funny in 2 weeks. So when something can happen and it's like, this is not cool. And then we'll go, this will be funny in 2 weeks. And most of the time it is. And when I got home from the hospital, I was on a big dose tapering off of prednisone. And I told Kim, I said, I feel like I'm on a roller coaster ride that I can't get off of and I want to. And I would watch TV. I mean, like the most benign show, and I would cry, then I would rage, then I would laugh hysterically, then I would get depressed, and then it would start again. I'm like, what is happening to me? And then, oh my gosh, eating. I mean, Kim asked me one time, she goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "But the drywall is starting to look kind of tasty around here. I need to go. I need to get some real food or something." And
Stay away from me because your
yeah,
toes may be gone
and
by
like I
morning.
said, at the time it was terrible, but now I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, you were fixing to just take a bite out of sheetrock. It was bad.
Yeah, I mean and we talk about it all the time. I've had several people that, matter of fact, that with NephCure International that works with FSGS patients. I've been with them for years, and we always talk about steroid bombardment. And if there's anything that is about as toxic as it can be, it's those high dose steroids.
Ooh, it's
Now they're
rough.
wonderful. They're a wonderful drug. It's something that really, matter of fact, early on they found out they were going to start taking people off of prednisone or not start them on it. But now they're seeing that after transplant, there's more rejection on the ones who don't, early rejection, that don't take the prednisone that do. So, I mean, but when you're at the high 100 milligrams a day for 2 weeks,
Oh,
and
I'm shivering thinking about it.
I know, but you understand it like I do because you've been through it.
Yeah.
Nobody gets it. I mean, I question whether the doctors even get it sometime because it's no problem. And that's the only thing the research has done. There's been nothing to advance the care of FSGS.
It's almost like, excuse me.
I'm going to get argument out of that. I know if somebody listens to this, especially a nephrologist, I'll get a call. But in all honesty, what else could they give you? There is nothing
I have no idea.
else. No, there's nothing. I mean, that's it. After all these years.
Well, and when you're going through it, you get to a point where you don't care. You're like, let's just deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things, it's going back to when I found out I had cancer and my one kidney that I was nursing along. I just made up my mind real quick. I'm like, I scheduled surgery very quick. I found out on July 12th. I had a biopsy later, and I was at MD Anderson when they gave me the results of the biopsy. And I said, "Look, I'm here. Can we do this tomorrow?" And he started laughing. He's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Look, let's just make this happen." I said, "The
You're a celebrity."
Well, yeah. The sooner that it gets out of me, the sooner I can get on the road to transplant, and the sooner I can get back to living. Because I told my wife, I said, our lives are on hold until this happens.
Yeah.
And my attitude was very, very proactive, gung ho, whatever you want to call it. And not everybody's that way. Believe me, I have zero judgment on people that don't react the way I do. In fact, I'm very sympathetic to whatever. But it's just I made up my mind that this was not going to kill me, and we were going.
And look at you now.
Well, absolutely, man. That's so many times, man. My wife made the comment the other day. She was talking about the kidney transplant. She goes, "I don't know that you'd be here right now if Brad hadn't come through for you." And look, I was a big guy. I was doing PD. I had to do it at night for like 10 hours, and I had to do a midday exchange because it's just so large. And this is going to sound terrible. I was not going back to hemo. It wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Well,
there are people that make those decisions. Very few people know about the ones that say, "I'm done. I'm not doing this."
Yeah, and I told her, I said, "I'm just not doing it again." I said, "If this doesn't work," I said, "just get the affairs in order. I'm moving on." And I was ready. Look, I'm a believer. I'm a Christian. Christ has carried me through this, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna have to worry about this anymore. But you know what? It worked, and God had a different plan for me. I had no kidneys for 3 years, 2 years, and I'd wake up every morning going, "How am I alive?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I just go, "Okay, well, you got something keeping me around to do something. Let's go."
Yeah, let's get after it.
So
there's a common thread through all of what you're talking about. And it just goes back to it. We are unique. not in a special way, but just in a way that people don't understand at all what it's like to have this disease. And I think it holds us back in the research arena. And it's not, kidney disease by itself, kidney disease is very rare, but it's lethal. You can't survive. It's lethal. I mean, you have no recourse. You have transplant, you have dialysis, or you have death. I probably get some argument about that. I don't know the fourth one. I don't know the fourth option. That's just the way it is with kidney failure. You're going to progress to it with no matter how much. Some people go real fast, others take their time in the disease process. Some people crash into it because they've got another condition like diabetes. The point is, it's dangerous. All right. And a lot of us, and I'm included in that, when they're first diagnosed with it, don't accept it. They deny it, and they just can't figure out how in the world did this happen? And that's why I think mentoring is so important. Being able to have somebody that's had it and be able to work through it with them. It's nice to have somebody on the journey with you that's experienced it.
Well, that's, like my dad has PKD,
Mm-hmm.
and he is,
there you go.
He's headed to dialysis. And so he's in Tennessee, and they were talking to him about home hemo and the different things. And I just said, look, I'm going to give you my take. I said, I hated hemo. I hated it with a passion. I didn't do it at home. I love my nurses. I mean, Cindy and Kim and the gang at DaVita here locally, I love them like my own family. But I hated doing hemodialysis.
Sure.
And I did PD, and that was a lot better. It's still not not as fun as a barrel of monkeys, but it's better. And I told my dad, I said, look, before someone sells you on something, I said, you need to go talk to people that have done home hemo, that have done peritoneal, that have done in clinic. And I said, that's where you form your opinion. I said, do not take the advice of people that haven't lived this.
That's what that's it.
So,
if you haven't had the experience, how can you tell about what you're going to experience? It's not going to happen.
I don't mean that to be mean. It's just,
no, it's true.
It's true.
That's the way it is. And, a lot of people say, oh, big deal. You got kidney disease. Well, it is a big deal because it's lethal.
You know why they say it's not a big deal? Because a lot of times you don't look sick.
That's right. That's exactly right, Ryan.
I had chronic kidney disease, and I could bench press 450 pounds and squat 600 and deadlift 700.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. I could hit a golf ball 300 yards. I mean, I could do these things. And then when I would just be, some days you're just so exhausted, you're just not
you don't
there.
Get out of bed.
And they don't understand. Well, I saw you the other day, and it's like, well, it's hard to explain. Even when I was on dialysis, my donor told me, he thought I was full of bull. He said, you do not look like you have no kidneys. He goes, you look awesome. And I was like, well, thank you. I said, but I feel terrible. All the time.
And do you know when you look the worst? When you actually start looking worse? You're headed out.
Yeah.
That dialysis, I say all you want to about it, but it is impending. It just keeps moving on, and you have no control of what's going on internally. Zero.
No,
right? Before I lose my thought, Ryan, how old is your dad?
23, 74. I'm 51, 74.
74. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say, and this is not a suggestion. This is just an observation. I just finished working with a man who's been with me for 2 years, who's transplanted. He's 74 years old. He's home now. 2 days in the hospital, and he's home.
Yeah.
We've got a living donor. All right. I'm just saying, I don't know where your dad's at, but if that discussion comes up, we'd be happy to talk to him.
Well, I'm actually, it's funny you say that. I've already started talking. His nephrologist has started talking to him about preemptive transplant.
Absolutely.
And I told him, I said, I wish that had been an option for me, because I knew I was headed there. When my cancer hit, I was at stage 4.
Yeah.
I moved in, and I knew stage 5 was coming in a couple of years. So, he's sort of interested, and he's dealing with what a lot of people always deal with is, I don't want to put someone out.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
don't.
I get it. That discussion you and I would never have because we've been through it, but
Yep.
I understand it. I get it.
So, I've actually told him about Kidney Solutions. I've told him
Yes.
about that. This is what they do,
Well,
and
I would, I'm sorry. I got to tell you, I would like him to discuss it with Mr. Hess, Jim Hess, this transplant recipient. I think it would open his eyes at least to thought, not to decision, but at least to open it for thought. I don't think anybody's too old for transplant,
I
especially
don't
if you get
either.
a living donor. I don't buy it. And we throw more kidneys away, even if it's a deceased donor. If you're on a list somewhere, or if you take a Hep C, anything is, I'm sorry, is better than going on dialysis, no matter how old you are.
I cannot argue with any of that. That's absolutely true.
And that'll only come from you and me. That'll only come from people who've been through it. You will probably get that argument from doctors or whatever, but I'm sorry. It's the way it is, the way I see it. And preemptive is the route.
Well, and
Preemptive
that's
is the
becoming,
route.
so much has changed, even since the year since I've had my neighbor had a transplant 33 years ago.
Yeah.
She's amazing. We talk all the time.
Yeah.
And we compare notes on what the things that are similar, like we take the same medications,
Mhm.
same times. I know what she's doing at 8 a.m. I know exactly what she's doing. I know
Mhm.
what she's doing at 8 p.m. But other things are very different, like things they told her versus things they told me.
Mhm.
So, it's just interesting to see that. And preemptive, my long-winded point here, that just wasn't something that was done even really 10 years ago. It's just,
I had it 36 years ago. I had 2 days of dialysis. And do you know the reason that I did have that was my doctor, my nephrologist in San Antonio, Dr. Mulgrew, told me, you won't do well on dialysis.
yeah.
Do you have any brothers? And I said, or sisters? I said, I have 2 brothers. He said, we need to give them a call. You're going to need a transplant. Never mentioned dialysis. And that was in 1984.
Man, that's awesome.
See, I mean, here you're talking about your dad getting prepared for dialysis. He would tell me, you need to get prepared for transplant.
Yeah.
Never mentioned dialysis. Now, that's not because he's against dialysis. He's a nephrologist, and he's a specialist in nephrology. He treats people immunosuppressive. He's an expert on immunosuppressive drugs.
Right.
The point being is if you can get it before dialysis, you're got a leg up. And you should
every
have.
day you're on dialysis shortens your life.
There's no doubt.
I mean,
There's no
it does
doubt.
keep you alive, but it takes time off your life.
Mm-hmm. But if it can happen for a 26-year-old and it's available to a 74-year-old, who's making that judgment, my friend?
Right.
Who makes that judgment? It's the individual. It's your dad. He is the one. We're not going to make it for him, nor there are places that will transplant him.
Yeah.
Especially if he's got a donor.
Yeah, I'm not sure which hospital is near him. I know Vanderbilt is in the Nashville area.
Mm-hmm.
There's different ones. He's got some good facilities around him. It's just a matter of getting him convinced that, hey, you need to explore this.
Aside from our friendship, I'm more than willing to go the extra mile.
I'll definitely hook him up with y'all.
Okay, and I can tell you, I won't be doing the talking. Jim Hess will be doing the talking.
Yeah,
and he will do it. We'll do it any way he wants to, and you can be involved. We'll do a Zoom, whatever it is.
That'd be great.
I don't feel any animosity or any prejudgment. I think he needs at least the opportunity to discuss it.
I agree. Just know, one of the biggest things I learned going through cancer treatment and now this is, the more options you have,
Exactly.
the better.
Say that again.
The more options you have, the better.
Right. People go into this thinking they have no options because it's not discussed with them. So it needs to be told. People need to say, what are my options? Line them out for me. Let me make the decision. As a patient, let me make it.
I'll give you an example of something I wish people would have done for me. And I don't fault anybody because I understand,
this is no fault. There's no fault zone.
I was not going to be eligible for a preemptive because of cancer. There's basically a 3-year wait when you have.
That's right.
And they were talking to me about dialysis. No one mentioned PD to me.
Mm-hmm.
No one even mentioned it. It was just like, hey, we're going to set you up with DaVita or Fresenius, whichever you want. I chose DaVita because it was closest to the house or whatever. And looking back, hindsight is 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I wish someone had said, let me tell you about peritoneal dialysis and the difference in how you're going to feel and the difference in your ability to travel and your ability to just still be active and do things and not have, the blood vessels wrecked and not have your nerves wrecked and your extremities. I wish that had been explained to me. I didn't know. I was just like, okay, I'm going to DaVita.
Yeah.
I found out about PD and I was like, yeah, I'm getting off of that, going to the clinic wagon. Real first chance I got.
So this isn't digressing at all, but let's talk PKD and let's talk about the ability for you to, as a patient with PKD, the open opportunity to have a preemptive transplant.
Well, I don't have PKD. My dad
No, but I'm saying for someone who has PKD, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is not a very fast-moving illness, okay? It is not in the kidney disease world. So why is it that we see a lot of people waiting and going on dialysis when they could have been transplanted? That's my issue. That's my issue. And I'm not going to lay hands on anybody or slap anybody around here, but there needs to be a meeting of the minds here that we start with transplant first. That's just it. That's the option that should be given to an individual. Not dialysis, transplant.
I agree completely.
Okay. So, and see,
if someone had told me, hey, you know what, we're gonna delay your surgery because your cancer is slow growing, and we're gonna do this and see if we can locate you a kid. Well, first off, with cancer, they wouldn't have done that. They'd have just said, hey,
right? No, they wouldn't have.
But if I was a PKD guy and I said, hey, you need to start thinking about this. You've got, this is slow growing, slow progressing. If you can find the donor, we can bypass all this.
Absolutely. That's the point. That's exactly. And that should be our penchant as transplant patients.
Especially when you know what the end result will be if you do nothing.
Right.
It's like a slow moving car accident. It's like, hey, I have time to get out of the way of this.
Yeah, I got time to jump out of the car or whatever.
Or I can go ahead and crash.
Yeah, and it's going to crash. And all the other kidney diseases are the same way, Ryan. In some respects, some of them move a lot slower, like FSGS, but you can't predict it. There's no predicting the speed at which kidney disease progresses. No way. They have some algorithms and all this. If they do this, it's going to do. The point is, the day you're diagnosed, when I was diagnosed in 1984, I knew exactly the doctor knew exactly what I needed. But he's a rare cat.
Yeah.
He is a rare cat. And I think that's where it's got to start. It's got to be in the kidney community, in the nephrology world. That's where it's got to be. Now, we're probably digressing here because I was going to talk about you.
Chasing rabbits is what we do.
That's what I like. And I think because it brings out the point that who's going to stand up for people for preemptive transplant? Who is it? Are you going to do it? I know you are.
Absolutely.
I know you are. And you should, that's what you should speak of.
Well,
that's all I speak of. Okay. I cannot believe in my heart's mind or my mind that anybody would opt for dialysis over transplant if given the opportunity and the explanation. And the earlier you start, right? You screen somebody at your 3A and you have PKD or FGS, FSGS. What's so wrong with saying, hey, you need to start thinking about living donation. You need to think about real hard about being transplanted.
Well, let's look at this another way. What's the average wait time for a transplant? 7 years?
Oh, and 7 to 10, 11.
7 to 10. Okay. So let's wind the clock back to 2013 when I had FSGS and I was at stage 3. Why wouldn't I be allowed to put myself on a wait list when I know what the outcome is going to be at that point? Same with PKD, same with any other progressive disease.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but they'll, you know, it's like a lot of things that go, well, you're not sick enough yet. You're not there yet, which are like, you know, this is completely different. This is my father-in-law. I had a liver transplant. So Kim and I have had a lot of experience with this.
Oh, you bet you have.
So,
You're right. That's
you know, I remember he needed a transplant. And with livers, you die. It's that simple.
right. That's it.
There is no dialysis for livers.
No.
And they kept telling him, well, you know, you're not sick enough for a liver transplant. You can, you know, they can see every scan his liver is rotten. It's gone. It's going.
It's
you know,
irreversible. Unreversible.
What is the holdup?
Yeah.
You know, who makes this stand of that? But you're not sick enough.
See, that is in the medical community. Now they can't lay it on anybody else.
I'm going to get angry. I just watched him.
No,
he's doing great now, by the way. But he suffered for 2 or 3 years when he didn't need to.
Yeah, and here's another thing too that you just mentioned: going on a list. There is no such thing as a list if you got a donor.
Yeah.
No, don't talk lists to getting on a list, because if you're 3A and you have a brother or a sister or somebody great that's willing to test for you, what's the problem? And they always have this standard: we'll transplant you at 20. Your EGFR gets 20 and below. Why? Wouldn't it be better if you're healthy and you know it's going that way?
You can recover quicker.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you don't have the effects of the damage that's going on with bad kidneys. It goes on. Not dialysis isn't the only thing. Bad kidneys causes a lot of grief for your heart and your liver and your whole body.
Well,
it's progressive.
I mentioned neuropathy in my feet, and
yes,
you know, that if you see me on a good day, you would never know anything was wrong with me. It hurts, but I can
tolerate it.
Play through the pain. But there are some days where I can't drive because I can't feel my feet. There are some days where it feels like there's like a shooting fire running across my toes and up my ankle and into my calf. There are nights where I can't sleep because it aches, or I literally can't put a sheet on my foot because it feels like it's burning.
You get gout.
You know, it does feel like gout, which I had that. When you're having renal failure, you deal with that too.
You do that, absolutely.
And you know, I always used to joke, if you wanted to interrogate someone quickly, just give them gout where you could turn it on and off, and you'll get whatever you want.
If you can't waterboard them, give them gout.
But you know, the chance to avoid that. I mean, neuropathy. You know, by the way, kidney transplant patients, half of you guys that have neuropathy as dialysis or whatever, it'll go away. Half of you, it doesn't. I'm in the half that it didn't. And you know, it's one of those things where, okay, you know, I don't care. I mean, I'm not doing dialysis. My life is back, but it aches. It makes it hard to go work a normal job. You know, and if you can avoid that, let's go. I mean,
so the difference between 20 and 30 might be significant. There are people that are considering it out east in the big major hospitals is to transplant earlier, especially for a living donor. But there's a I don't know what the word is. I can't. Here's one of those connections I don't make. There's a word that tells you that it's not understandable. You don't know why it's happening. All right. It's a mystery. It's a mystery to me why the medical community, the neurologists especially, nephrologists, haven't adapted to this whole process and said, let's transplant first. Is it because the dialysis, you know, they're being paid for, you know, to do dialysis? I don't get it. I don't know. What's the major reason?
Okay, I do not want to sound like there's something nefarious going on, or
no conspiracy here.
But there is a lot of money in dialysis.
Oh, yes, there sure is.
A lot of money, and understandably. Okay, so you know, people set standards. You know, one of the things in my former life, I worked in the construction industry, and particularly electrical, and we wrote the standards for installation. The people that do the installs write the standards. So the people that do the treatment for dialysis write the standards. And they should. They're the experts.
That's right.
Then they'll say, this is the proper course of treatment. And then they get tunnel vision because that's the way it is. And that's what happens. It's not, I don't think there's anything.
No, it's not.
I don't think there's anything evil. I don't look into that stuff that deep. But I think that's a lot of what happens is You know, it's like, oh, renal failure, dialysis. That's
Yep.
it.
That's it. Yeah. And then it says, well, what do you do about it? Well, I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it with you right now.
Well, and it's
We're
becoming
advocating for it.
more and more people, you know, are going like I saw what my insurance company paid monthly to.
Oh my gosh. No, I don't. We're not even going to go there. That's a bunny trail that's unbelievable.
Well, and here's the thing. I it was from my employer. I knew the people that ran the plan because I've worked with them, and they were cheering for me. And when I got a transplant, they were thrilled. And I asked them, I said, "How much money am I going to save y'all?" And they go, "We don't even think about that." But they said, "We're glad you're getting your transplant."
They
But they said,
should.
but they said a lot. And you know, and
Yeah.
here's the thing that there's a reason health insurance costs so much money. I mean, it's
Yeah.
oh boy, we're going all over the place, but it's
Yeah,
true.
but no,
It's
but it's
absolutely true.
true. I think the whole point here is that we're talking about it, and that's what's not happening in this country. We're not talking about it.
You know, health insurance and all that is kind of like CPAs and attorney. Nobody likes it until you need it.
That's right. Yeah. And look at how much money we burn up. And I've got a wife here that has never hardly ever done anything on my plan.
Yeah,
She's been
Ken the
healthy.
same way.
Yeah, see, so like it's offsets. But I'll tell you what, I burned up some big bucks in my 40, 50 years.
Yeah, same here. They're not making money on me. It's like,
They have no,
oh, I
they
wanted at the all
yeah.
you could eat buffet.
I've often wondered why I haven't met the max, actually met the max that an insurance company would pay.
Yeah, the lifetime maximum.
Yeah. I don't know why I haven't. I don't get it. And I probably because I never was on dialysis.
Probably. I know for 4 years, I mean, it had to be over $1 million they spent on me.
Oh gosh.
Easily.
Yeah. It's $90,000 a year per patient just for dialysis. We're not talking about it.
Complicated case. I had a lot of issues.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, just to go on dialysis without any, if for 1 year, it's $90,000 per patient. And that doesn't add up all the medications that are used. There's just the dialysis.
I do not miss taking phosphorus binders. Holy mackerel. I used to have to, because I'm a weird case, big guy. I used to have to take like 8 of those things.
Yeah.
Big fourth pills. I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
But
okay. So you're fun to be around. I need to be around.
We don't have to stop if you don't want to. I got no place else to go.
The thing of it is, I got to take care of my wife today too.
I got you.
You know what happened is she screwed up her knee. She can't even walk. So I've got to do something with her. Anyway, yeah, right. I got to tell her jokes and get her laughing because she's not a happy camper. Anyway, there's one thing I want to ask you.
Yeah.
If you look at the course in 1 year, what has been the most difficult thing to do after transplant? What has been the hardest thing?
Holding back on things. You know, I really wanted to go and hit the exercise trail hard. I got in good shape, as good as you can get on dialysis. I lost about 40 pounds getting ready, and the prednisone and the hospital stays has put it back on me. I don't like that, but holding back, you know, I'm still a little afraid to just like really go work out. I'm really afraid to go push myself, and I want to, and that's the hardest thing. And the other thing is this heat in the hill country.
Oh gosh, yes.
It wrecks my Pendergraft levels bad. I mean, even the slightest dehydration will just wreck that.
Mm-hmm.
And basically having to stay indoors, not being able to go play golf, not being able to go hike or walk or do anything.
Yeah, just live. God.
It's terrible. So I'm looking forward to fall is what I'm saying.
Well, it broke today, I think. I know it's going to be in the 90s, and everybody says, "Oh, you're going to 90s." Well, gosh, that's a relief from 105.
Yeah.
So those two things are real important. I want people to realize that this is not a cakewalk. All right.
No.
It takes due diligence, and probably I'm just going to say it again. It takes mentoring. People like you and I need to be working with people that are fresh, and we need to be helpful in any way we can. So I recommend that most of our people, remember, we have a support group on Monday nights. This support group is free. Everything we do at Kidney Solutions is free. So, if you even have an inkling that you would like to be a mentor, I have plenty of people would love to talk with you. All right.
I'm always available. I've actually reached out to people. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but one of the things I love about having a radio show, and I'm going to have an afternoon show soon, is I have a chance to talk about this stuff sometimes. And I will tell people, hey, if you want to know what to expect or what my experience was, I am always open. I will make time to go visit with those people.
We have 100 or more Ryans in our group. Okay. Everybody can be and should be a mentor, but also you need to be a mentor to yourself. You need to make sure that before you're worried about or working with other folks, you're taking care of yourself. That's the most important. You mentioned to me about working out and stuff like that. It's possible. You need guidance. You need somebody that can guide you through that. And I think that I may have an individual that could help you with that. All right. And he's had kidney issues and he's worked through kidney issues. So I'll let you know after the show.
That sounds good. I love that.
Yeah. And this guy is in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's a trainer. All right. He knows the story. All right. Anyway, tell me what's your last hurrah before I shut the radio off or shut the podcast off? What's your last hurrah? Because you're coming back here, but I don't know whether you like it or not.
I'd love to. Last hurrah. Attitude is everything when you're going through this. Attitude is everything. I saw people in dialysis clinics that had given up. I hated it. And I hated being around it. But you have to maintain a good attitude. It will carry you, and it will carry your caregiver through the worst part of one of the worst things you'll ever experience in life. And you just have to have that attitude of, I am going to make it. And also, like I said, I love my saying, this will be funny in 2 weeks.
I love it too. I'm going to use it.
That helps my attitude, help me get through a lot of things. But attitude will carry you. And one more thing, man, be a good patient, be compliant, take your drugs, do what you're told. Don't hesitate to call. Do not hesitate to ask questions, both as a dialysis patient and as a transplant patient. Be a good patient. Don't be that person that's non-compliant, because someone gave you a part of their life so that you could live. And don't ever forget that. That's what I'd leave people with.
I'm going to leave it at that. I just think it's good. It's a good message, and it's profound because you're living it. It's not something you read in a book. It's something you're living. Okay.
Yep.
All right, folks, here we go. We don't always, I hate this, and I don't use the word very often. I hate leaving friends. I just hate it. I want to keep continuing and going on, but I'm just going to turn around and have you come back on. That's all I'm going to do. But I'm
ready whenever. You know what? I would love for Kim to be here.
Yes, I want Kim. Yep. We need to discuss caregiving. It's important. I don't know what I'd done with this beauty out here. I would not have survived without my wife of 53 years.
Neither. I am literally alive today because of her.
I agree totally. And it's, that's it. Well, it's true. I'm going to tell you that right now. So, all right, folks, listen, we're going to have Ryan back and his wife, and it's going to be another session, and we'll talk turkey. Anyway, from now on, remember, there's only one thing that gets between you and success, and that's you. All right. Make sure you're doing the positive. Being in the positive makes you understand that negative doesn't get you anywhere. There's going to be bumps. You're going to have rough go. There are things that normally happen in life. Just because you have a transplant or you're on dialysis doesn't change that. Your life is going to go on. And take it from me, if you don't understand something, you got to ask questions. Don't leave any doctor's office without turning every stone. Turn it over, rub it up, and find out what it is. Get your options. Then you make the decision with guidance, and I guarantee you, you're going to be a whole lot better off. So enough of that. Come back and listen to this and share it. And remember, keep breathing.